Hi there, this is Dale Byron, and I am so glad you're here for the introduction to Heartwork, poems as inner work for heart and soul, or as I sometimes like to say, effortless poetry, plain and simple. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. First of all, a little bit about my background. I've had the privilege by now to read, I estimate, about 1,000,000 poems, or at least close enough to that number to feel the weight and tug of that poetry in my life. And I've had the privilege during this time of teaching and coaching and speaking to a number of thousands of people by now, and using poetry not in any traditional analytical way, but more in the way of using poetry as a bone practical tool in our lives, as a tool to help clarify, to help heal, to help inspire. Sometimes I like to say poetry helps us place the roots and soil back onto our life. And something about, or a little more about effortless poetry, plain and simple, that context. It's really, this podcast is about trusting ourselves to know what we like and don't like, what we need psychologically, intellectually, and the heart, head and heart. Trusting ourselves that if a poem makes sense to us, makes feeling intuitive sense to us, we'll know it. And we don't need anybody else to tell us that. So what we're going to find out is that a poem means how it resonates in our body. And the intention here is to create a space for rest and letting go rather than force and effort. Now, the invitation of this podcast is to slow down, to breathe, to become a little bit more aware, to simply let the poems do their work, as we were saying, just drop it into our body and have our own experience. It's not about the intellect alone, as I've already said, although that's important, but it's also about it is about bringing the intellect and the heart together, head and heart, and the entire body and our whole being. You could even say it that way. Each episode will include a poem, a quote or a thought about the poem, and always a personal invitation to you, the listener, to step inside the poem, as we've already said, and have our own experience. So again, thank you for being here. Let's begin the heart work.